Good morning, 2:30 in the morning, tea time. This is worse than fucking filming.
Oh, the comedian's home. Hello, comedian. How are you?
Yes.
Hello. Hello.
I'll go away now.
This is Lapsang Souchong. Okay. So it's a bit like a tea and a cigarette. Well, I'm going to evacuate and have a shower. I hope I feel a little better when I come out back again. Just remember that you're standing on a planet that's moving and revolving at 900 miles an hour. Still doing a gig in California.
Where's Eric?
Oh. Hey! Good morning.
Good morning, John.
Good morning.
Al, what time is it?
Should be dark there, shouldn't it?
It's 3 in the morning.
3 in the morning.
It's 3 in the morning, yes.
So that's why you look like that.
This is how I look at 3 in the morning.
So which chair am I sitting in?
The only other one that's
It's
not
supposed to be
occupied,
funny.
John.
It's very tricky, isn't it?
Work it out. Work it out. What are you on, Eric? Are you having something to drink or not?
I had a Lapsang Souchong, and now we're on Brendan's breakfast.
Trying to see the books on Eric's shelf.
Do you see that clearly? But you're very fuzzy. Can you read books and titles?
No, can't at all. I'm just wondering if any of them are mine.
Really? There's a Michael Palin section.
Oh, where is it?
I have some very rare unsigned Michael Palin books.
Where did you find them? Eric, I've been trying to find
You
one.
have to send up for them from the publisher because they
Don't worry.
come signed from the factory. You
Don't
know.
worry, Eric. I'll come over and soil them personally, and I'm next to
But there is a shop in Henley, apparently, where you can get unsigned copies. I think it's called something like Jonkers or something like that.
Is that
I Mean Mine by George Harrison
even greater than the unsigned ones?
on the bottom shelf?
That's actually by, no, it's not by George Harrison, it's by somebody very similar. John Locke.
John Locke. Oh.
Oh, John
Actually,
Locke.
No,
Oh,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
it's Francis Bacon.
Francis Bacon.
Francis Bacon, yes.
Yeah, very good
He
answer.
he was actually Shakespeare who pretended to be him.
I have a theory that all Francis Bacon's works were written by Shakespeare.
They were. Oh, clearly, yes.
Did he
You
give
realize he died in my house?
Francis
It's
Bacon?
true.
What?
Francis Bacon died in my house.
Not at
Lots
your
of others.
house.
Thousands of people
Yeah.
have died in your house.
By the way, lucky bastard.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's
He did
he
get
set the tone for it. He was trying to invent the TV dinner, it appears, and had found a dead chicken, stuffed it with snow, got a chill. They put him to bed in the house. The bed hadn't been heated properly. He caught pneumonia and he died.
In your house?
Which room?
I don't know.
The kitchen.
Francis Bacon, the artist.
No.
No.
Philosopher.
Bacon.
Oh, right.
The Elizabethan
Invented
criminal political leader.
The one who so encouragingly said we must put nature on the rack
Oh, right.
and force her to reveal her secrets. It's a nice Elizabethan turn of phrase.
That's very good. That's rigorous.
It wasn't sort of done on the bed or on the pillow and sort of tease the secrets out of nature
You don't.
with a little.
Anyone famous died in your house, Terry?
No.
I thought Aristotle had died in our house, but it was all bloody rumour. You've never even been there. Who? Aristotle. Never been anywhere near Kentish Town. You know, the estate agents will tell you anything, won't they? You know. Oh, it's very. You'll like this. Aristotle was here for three years.
Why is it called Aristotle Lane?
Well, exactly. They are absolute cheats. I bought it on the basis of Aristotle Lane. I thought this would be good for me.
He was a
Toughen
bugger
me
for
up
the
a bit
bottle.
intellectually.
He was a bugger for the bottle.
The bugger for the bottle, yeah.
He was a bugger for the bottle.
Hobbes was fond of a dram, and René Descartes was a
Him
drunken
and
fart.
your cat was a real test and he was very rarely stable. I digger, was a boozy beggar who could think you under the table.
Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein. Come up again. It's the second time this morning Wittgenstein's come up.
We were talking about Wittgenstein earlier, and I was asking whether it was Wittgenstein or Wittgenstein. What do most people say?
I should imagine it depends whether he was in Austria or Cambridge.
Oh, very good answer.
He was the professor of philosophy at Cambridge University in 1940.
All right.
And also, interestingly enough, he went to school with Hitler in Graz in Austria when he was a little boy. There's some pictures of him next to Hitler.
That's a bummer for your CV,
There's
isn't
some
it?
theory that Hitler developed his anti-Semitism because he hated Wittgenstein.
Just because he liked the boy next to him, he didn't like. That's probably what it's about. Yeah.
Isn't it sad? Yeah, and Wittgenstein had a one-handed brother pianist who lost his arm in the First World War and became a concert pianist, a one-handed concert pianist.
Wonderful,
And people
isn't
like
it?
Ravel wrote special pieces for him.
I love that. It's like being a one-handed cricketer. You know, got to admire their spirit.
I
think
remember
only
when
need one.
I was watching Somerset playing Glamorgan once in the park, Clarence Park, Weston-super-Mare, and a guy next to me was moaning on about Somerset, and he was talking about a fellow who played for his local village team. He said to me he'd give his right arm to play for Somerset. Not that he would have stood out, because they were wooden spoon winners, bottom of the championship table for 7 consecutive years.
Why a wooden spoon?
I don't know where that came from. That's the right expression, isn't it?
Yes, wooden spoon. Yeah, for the
Get the
bottom of a
It's
wooden spoon.
table. Eric, wooden spoon correspondent.
it's rhyming slang, Michael.
What for?
It's Cockney rhyming slang for being fucking bottom.
Oh,
It's not particularly good Cockney rhyming slang.
fucking bottom wooden spoon. I've got a certain non-ring to it.
Like Vaticans, remember? Vatican cities.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Need to wait.
And also, they were known as Bristol cities in the old days.
Yeah, Bristol's and
Now, don't worry about the
Bristol
coffee.
City.
Let's just do it.
and Willits. Sorry.
Who?
You mean this is not doing it?
I think we all have a completely different feeling about meaning of life. I mean, I think some of it's the funniest stuff we ever did, and other bits I didn't like at all. And I always felt that the problem was that we rushed into it, and we really should have just stepped back from life of Bayern for a couple of years, and then I think something would have come together that would be more integrated.
We were trying to find a form, a narrative, weren't we? Like
I think
the
it was
Holy
almost the
Search
last
for the
thing.
Grail was a narrative. Life of Brian was a
But
narrative.
the trouble was, it was almost on the last day in Jamaica that we came up with the title. And then we said, right, that's it. Oh, this goes here, because everything then fitted.
3 days in, actually. It was 3 days in, and I came down to breakfast, and everybody was looking glum and thinking, and Mike suggested we should turn it into a TV series. And I thought, what have I only got? I've got the script timings, which one of the script girls did. And I thought, what are we worrying about? We've got 70 minutes of really great material, and we only need to write 20 minutes more. And then that turned around, and Eric came up with The Meaning of Life. And we could say the life of man, and that was the Wednesday, 3 days in.
And I know when Terry said that, Eric looked very surprised, but I have to say that's how I remember it, because I believe that after a couple of days, we read this material out, we didn't see any way of integrating it, and I'm almost sure that I said, look, guys, why don't we just forget this and have a lovely 2-week holiday and then go back to London and say, we worked our brains to death and it just didn't work and it's a failure and we're not going to make it. And the next morning you came down, because I think you'd been working on it that night or in the morning.
I just thought, what have I got that nobody else has got? And I thought I'd got the timings the script girl had done on the thing. So I just came down.
I remember
to that.
sitting out at the table. Do you remember outside the place in Jamaica, and all these guys walking up the beach, offering to sell us weed? No, we're writing comedy, please. You know, we should have just taken it, and the film would probably be made much better for as a result. But I do remember them. Wonderful.
I still love the idea
Couldn't
of it
believe
being a
it.
court case, though.
What?
I mean, the idea of a court case, that the whole thing was being taking place within a court, and because there was a con that we had made this film and we needed to do Hamlet on an island out somewhere in Jamaica. The whole thing was a lie, and ultimately we all then were going to be killed at the end. We were going to be found guilty. Don't you remember this?
No, I don't remember that.
Do you remember it, Eric?
No, not at all. I remember it being more of a tax deductor, but tax dodge. We
But
decided
that,
the
that
whole
was
thing
but that was
would
the
be
idea.
tax dodge.
It was a tax dodge, and we were in court having to justify why we were playing Hamlet in Jamaica. And
I remember that. I remember it was really good.
Do you remember we were once, Eric? Do you remember we were once having a writing meeting, and somebody came in from outside and said, oh, "Guys, they're setting up a corporation which is going to help with tax, and they just want a name for it."
Yeah.
And we said, "Call it Evado Tax." And they went back and told the accountants in New York, and several of them fainted. The fear that engendered.
It was our own company, wasn't it?
was it?
Evado tax.
Yeah. Well, KGB.
So you remember it as being a court case?
No, but it was what Eric was talking about. In fact, it was a tax dodge. It was when you could get lots of money from the government. And it was then we were putting it in a courtroom, and we'd do the sketches, and each one would be thrown up as evidence of why it wasn't a tax dodge. It obviously was, and that's why the executions. We were then talking at one point about how each person would be executed, what we would choose for the execution, and that ended up with the scene with Graham being chased by the topless girls.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a product of that. There was also World War III. Was the other.
I remember
thing
that
we've been
bit.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you remember?
I like World War III. I remember we had World War III, and it was going to be sponsored by various corporations. So people were going into battle carrying, Nike on their backs and huge slogans and Coca-Cola bombs. And that ended up with a very nice World War III sketch which Mike wrote, which is about the Prime Minister going into the bunker. The alarm's gone off. And he comes down. He's at the bunker. He said, "Oh, good morning." He said, "Good morning. I am the Prime Minister." "Yes, could I just see your pass?" No. Well, unfortunately, I've left my pass on my desk." I said, "Well, it's perfectly all right, so I just can't let you in." He said, "Well, I am the Prime Minister." Well, anybody could sort of say that, couldn't they, at this particular juncture? It's a very funny end that the Prime Minister couldn't get into the bunker. Because there's a lot of very good stuff when it was called Monty Python's Fish Film.
Yeah.
And I actually have a script of that. Have you ever read it?
No.
There's another brilliant script by Michael and Terry, I think, where they're on a plane and they're bombing Dresden. And so have you seen the rear gunner? Bit of a peach, isn't it? I mean, no, seriously, he's startlingly beautiful. I mean, he's got a sort of otherworldly quantity to him. I mean, I don't know, it just makes me feel better in a whole moral and spiritual way. No, I don't think that's proper in the RAF. You shouldn't, this is not really, we're on a bomber mission. All right, of course not. I don't mean you should touch him or anything. I just think, isn't it nice to have somebody who's such a peach at the back of the aircraft today? And it turns out he's an angel. They've got an angel in the back. And then they say, wait a minute, if there's an angel in the back, did we just die?
Oh, that's clever. Very clever. We should put that
Yes,
in
well,
There's some smashing stuff in there.
We also had an idea at one point, Al, that a spacecraft was going to arrive, and everyone surrounded the spacecraft to see what was coming in because they were people from another planet, and they came out and they explained that they were much more evolved than we were, but they were going to teach us how to live peacefully together. And we were all very, very excited, the crowd outside. And then they turned around and the door of their spacecraft had closed on them.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get back in. And they started to bitch at each other. Do you remember that?
I remember that. Yeah, I do remember.
You do remember that?
Yeah. There must be box files a mile high with all this stuff.
Well, Graham and I wrote some stuff about a mad Ayatollah. Do you remember any of this? And I just remember two things. I mean, first of all, he was going into constant rants about these disgusting and decadent Western devices like toilet paper, you know what I mean? And the other thing was, I remember that there were British troops who were caught at some point, and I remember they were all going to be tortured to death. And I remember the regimental sergeant major come out to the officers and saluting. They said, "Yes, regimental sergeant major." And they said, "The permission to panic, sir."
It's very good memory.
No, but we all remember different things. That's the extraordinary thing.
But I mean, it's interesting because you were saying we perhaps rushed into writing The Meaning of Life, and yet I remember we wrote an awful lot of stuff over a very long period.
Very long
But maybe
period.
you're right. Maybe we did start it too early after Life of Brian.
Well, we didn't have a
But there's
theme.
hell
I mean,
of a lot of
we
stuff.
didn't have an idea. I mean, we didn't
No.
have a theme. That was
So
the
we were
trouble.
writing.
You know,
We were
just
writing to
writing
find
sketches.
a theme. Yeah.
And then trying to find the subject for reading out the sketches, because there was that long expedition to the Himalayas in search of the meaning of life, and
In
they
Search
kept
of the Meaning
meeting-
of Life, and that was sponsored by Benson and Hedges cigarettes.
This was an idea ahead of its time, where you get literally people to sponsor things, not just product placement. Yes, yeah, smoking and Benson and Hedges.
That's what I thought was absolutely brilliant. We could have just paid for the whole film with all these sponsorships.
Yeah.
Just do it blatantly.
Yeah.
Don't lie. Don't be clever about it. Just do it.
But we had that. Remember, we wrote a thing ages before. I think it was based on that. It was a BBC comedy hour or something like that, and it was all based on the idea there was sponsorship everywhere in the UK, including the monarchy became the Sonny royal family, and every year one member of the public would become a member of the royal family if they'd sort of ticked the right boxes, and became the Sonny princess or something like that, just for a year, and then they'd go back to being ordinary again. You know, it is an idea ahead of its time. And now, of course, it's
Going back to the meaning of life, I remember reading the script we'd written on the plane going over, and I think it was based on Buñuel's
Street Charm of the Bourgeoisie.
And it was repeated. It
Yeah.
kept on repeating, and I just thought, no, this is not going to work.
It was Henry Jaglom at Cannes, who, when Meaning of Life played in Cannes, I remember Henry Jaglom. Do you remember Henry Jaglom?
Vaguely.
He made several films. He was also sort of the amanuensis of Orson Welles in his latter day. And Henry came out saying it was the finest work Python had done, the best work. I remember sitting in the car, I think a couple of others were in there, arguing, what are you talking about, Henry? But he was so convinced that the bad bits worked brilliantly because they amplified the great moments. And he thought it was just a perfect balance.
And it was the only film of ours that ever won anything at Cannes, wasn't it? It's actually got the Grand Prix de Jury. Yeah.
Well, actually, I remember that very well, because I went to Cannes, I think with you, Terry, and John Goldstone. You got up on stage and you announced that right at the opening conference, that you were confident we were going to win because we'd bribed the jurors. And this was in all the French papers. We announced that they would get the payoffs just as soon as we won.
Well, the chairman of the jury was the person who was releasing our film.
Oh, no, seriously?
Yes.
Oh, how wonderful.
All right, enough of that. Yeah.
And at the end, when we won, Terry got on stage to thank the jury and told them that their money was taped behind the pipes in the gentleman's room downstairs.
John and I had eat more pork on our.
Oh, yes. The stage show, brown coats, yeah.
There still is that great. Isn't that one the picture of us all on the beach with our breasts?
Oh, right, yes.
That was a previous year, I think.
Was it?
That's when I had quite big breasts.
Was Graham there?
Yeah.
Graham was there.
With a knotted handkerchief, I seem to remember.
That's right. Yeah.
Quite small breasts.
I do remember that really Fish Called Wanda came out of it, because I felt that some of the stuff, like the liver donor, which is wonderfully funny. I mean, just as good as anything we did, right? Some of it was great, but I thought there was a whole lot of it that wasn't good, and I thought there was better material that had not got in the film. And I remember thinking, well, I now want to do a film where I have at least 40% of the say and not a sixth of the say. Do you see what I mean? And that's when I sat down with Charlie Crichton, whom I'd met years before, and we started to knock together the plot. But it came out of that feeling of that I didn't want to be outvoted anymore for a bit.
I do think that Meaning of Life really had some of our very best things.
Oh, absolutely.
Just what we didn't have was that kind of narrative, which kind of the knights chasing or Brian being chased, which kind of held it all together during the quieter bits.
I think I figured out at one point that we were short of at least one rewrite, and if we'd taken the idea of the meaning of life and put on it the 7 ages of man, we could have gone from birth to death using the same character, even though we've gone backwards in time, in and out. We could have told the story of one person, and there was a possibility of some kind of plot.
If you don't have some sort of a story or narrative holding it together, then it sort of rises or falls on the quality of every single scene. So that the bad stuff sticks out much more.
I think the interesting...
But that's why I call the bad stuff.
I never thought we did the World War One presenting clocks and watches. I never thought that was very well done. I didn't think it was a very strong idea. And then that strange fishy thing, I thought was weird without being funny.
But that's what stayed on.
That's an image. That's iconic.
Yeah, it turns up on YouTube and everything, and on the web. Always. There's something about that is just so surreal, so inexplicable that people just find it wonderful. It's interesting, that one.
The basic thing about The Meaning of Life, as opposed to all our other films, is it's a musical. It actually has 8 numbers in it, which is already more than any musical would normally have. There's nothing better than Every Sperm is Sacred. Just the way it's shot and filmed and sung and danced. Terrific. It's just an extraordinary moment.
It was voted the best film musical number by Rotten Tomatoes, I think it was.
It was also it was nominated for. And we rarely got nominated for anything at BAFTA, but it was nominated for Best Song at BAFTA. And they played the 3 songs that were winners. And when Every Sperm is Sacred and the little clip came on, the place just erupted. It was wonderful. And then and the winner is Up Where We Belong from Officer and a Gentleman. So, it's the same theme. You could hear the sort of total groan in the audience. It was just, it was when...
Well, maybe we should do The Meaning of Life Part 2 with all the stuff that wasn't good enough to put in the other shows.
I think we made the big mistake. I think we tried to write in Jamaica. I think we should just sit on the beach and film in Jamaica. And maybe read the sketches in the situation where they were, in little deck chairs, little cocktails with umbrellas on. I think that could be a very nice location. You would go back to St. Anne's Bay, remember that?
And all those carved phalluses they used to bring round, you remember?
The what?
Weren't they real?
Oh, sorry, that's just mine. Also, along with the weed, they brought great carved phalluses. You want one of these?
Yeah,
remember?
Want to dig?
Well, you never carved phalluses.
Carved. I thought you said card.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought he said carved.
Well, teeth. Carved phalluses. Do you remember now?
No.
Because you bought one. You bought that huge great one. I remember that. Because I remember you could get BBC Two and BBC One. No, I do remember them. I've still got mine at home. I'm sitting on it.
My wife won't give it up.
Yeah, Harry knows about it. He's got it locked up.
They didn't vibrate in those days, though, did they?
We should unpack all the boxes of all that old material. I mean, because there's obviously some good stuff. Some of the stuff Eric was remembering, I'd completely forgotten.
Well, the fish film is very good. John Goldstone gave that to me. If you read that, you'll have a lot of laughs. Some of it was in the movie, and some of it wasn't. But I guess it was our first draft. It was called Monty Python's Fish Film.
Because there's much, much more material written for Meaning of Life and not used.
Oh, absolutely,
Probably about 3 times as much as we put in. I found a wonderful cricket sketch. I think it might have been in the last... You must have written it. Not out, not, Nick. And someone nudges him and says, oh, sorry.
That's right.
It's... and Eric's doing Peter West, I think.
And Gray and I wrote a fish song. I really rather care for fish. In fact, they are my favourite dish. I lunch on tench and I dine on cod, and I break my fast on a gastropod.
There you are. That's good.
So, do you think we should do another film together?
I think we should sit on the beach in St. Anne's Bay.
I think we agree with that.
We'll ask for a studio that will give us a month on the beach somewhere nice next February. And if a movie comes out of it, the studio can have it.
I'd need to pay off my mortgage, so I'd love to do another film.
I think we should get Graham somehow or other. This should be the challenge for the scientific community.
Well,
to recreate Graham.
That'd
be wonderful.
No, but that's...
Or we'd take a medium with us.
The remake of Holy Grail with the Holy Relics Graham being carried around was a really great idea. There's enough recorded material of Graham that he could always be there speaking.
I like the idea of having a medium
With a channel
who just has no sense of comic timing at all. It's got Graham's voice. Oh, hello. But not able to do anything funny. Well, that's rather funny. That would be poor Graham.
If it's Graham's sense of timing, he won't show up.
No, no.
That's right. That's very funny. He'd be late for meetings, wouldn't he?
No, he's coming. He's coming in a minute. All right, he'll be down shortly.
He'll be here in a minute.
And when the medium started to go like this, you would know that he was finally channeling Graham.
And the medium, they've got Norman Wisdom by mistake.
If we did anything, I think it would have to be about death. Because I spent 3 years writing Death the Musical and had to stop it because nobody wanted it. Yeah. It's really a Python subject, death. Yeah. It's a very big one, you know.
Yeah.
Death as a tax write-off too, you know, obviously.
I like this idea. I think a month on the beach writing a movie would be fun.
Or in prison or something like that. Somewhere where we can be secure. We have to be there. No one could leave.
We have to
That's
have
the thing. Because people always leave meetings early. We should be a short prison
I'm always
sentence.
surprised at how much good material there is around that you suddenly remember that was not done. I mean, I remember Gray and I wrote a sketch which was originally intended to be in the Holy Grail. And if I remember correctly, 10% of the first draft of the Holy Grail actually made it into the final movie. And this sketch was done in the final 6 programs that I wasn't in.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Buying an ant.
Buying an ant from Harrods.
yeah,
the Harrods
yeah.
ant character. So it's extraordinary what material is lying around. Next question.
That's funny. I found a wonderful...
It's a wonderful pause.
Like that, we'd run out. Hadn't we?
Oh, yes. Now the other thing was
Our growing years were dreadful. We had rationing, you know, it was freezing, there wasn't enough food, and, you know, it was cold. But then it gradually, bit by bit.
Having ice on the walls, inside walls of my bedroom. Not just on the window panes, but on the ice.
You were lucky. We never had ice at all. You
We had ice right up our legs.
Sorry, go on there.
We lived in Fridge, at middle of the road.
And I think after every major war, there is a time when there's a sort of, a renaissance, if you like. People come in and change things. And, you know, it happened in the 20s after the First World War. There was people dance and there's people going to have a good time. They want to throw off warfare and being in the army and all the dullness. We were a very fortunate generation and we just came along from all over England and people were doing various things we didn't know, but all our contemporaries, like Floyd and the Stones and, you know, the Beatles. That was all going on at the same time as we were doing our thing, which was being comedy.
But there was an enormous amount of great comedy, and a lot of it came out of those concert groups. What were they called? Ensa.
Ensa, yeah.
Or a lot of the great comedians of the 50s, 60s, 70s had actually been travelling around the world entertaining British troops. And we all had an enormous affection for music hall, as it was called in those days, you know. And there were the Frankie Howards and the Morecambe and Wises.
And the Goon shows came out of the Second World War, and they all sort of, Milligan Seacombe, I think, fought together, you know. So it's what, in the middle of all this awfulness, humour was sort of really important.
And there was a kind of resentment, wasn't there, of the governing class, and a feeling that they were idiots and scheming idiots. And that came out in the Goon Show, and it was a time, and that was just at the time when Beyond the Fringe happened. So that you had the great old music hall tradition and the best people there. Max Wall, you know, was wonderful. Tommy Cooper, the funniest man there's ever been. You had that, and then you suddenly have Peter Cook and Dudley Moore and Alan Bennett and Jonathan Miller and John Bird and John Fortune and Edna Bronson. They're all coming in at the same time. So it was an extraordinary...
They came in about it was about 15 years after the war ended, wasn't it? 45, and Beyond the Fringe was what, 1960 or something like that?
62.
Whereas after the First World War, everything suddenly went wild, you know, immediately afterwards. It was almost as though, I think, the generation, my parents' generation, was so bruised by 2 world wars and a major depression that they just didn't know what to do after the Second World War. Very nervous of any sort of expression of how you were feeling or anything like that. It was dug in, austerity, keep quiet, let's hope nothing awful happens.
But then
And also the biggest change was, of course, the arrival of television, which made an enormous difference. I mean, it meant that the vaudeville people couldn't carry on. You could do your acts in vaudeville for the rest of your life. But one night on television, they say, what you do next week? So there was a whole changeover of types of comedian. And it made it possible for people like us to get in there.
It's very strange because in England, unlike the rest of Europe, television was what people wanted to be in. If you were Italian or if you were Spanish or if you were French, then you wanted to be in movies. And the television was considered rather second-rate, and sort of politicians got their friends into easy sinecures there. Right? So television in this country was almost the heart of our
But
art.
the style of humor changed, and I think it had to do with education, university, people suddenly going to university. So there was one kind of comedy. It was like the music hall comedy. And suddenly this wave after the war, it happened in America, the same thing. Suddenly after the war, suddenly there was more Saul, Lenny Bruce, intellectual comedians, and that's where, Beyond the Fringe came out of.
But oddly, always with this great respect for the older tradition.
Yeah. And Python was so lucky. I hadn't realised that we were on the first, when the first week that BBC went into colour.
Yeah, we were very fortunate.
And we were.
Is that so? I never realised that.
Absolutely true. Yeah, the first. So we'd have been made in black and white, for BBC One.
Someone said to me the other day about silly walks, and how could we write something like that? And their point was that it now would seem very offensive to people with disabilities. But my point was that the way you did it was it wasn't sort of awkward. It was an incredibly smooth thing, so it was absolutely, actually, rather athletic and wonderful, the bottom half of the body only moving. When other people came in, like the lady who sort of served the tea, and the tray all shook, then it did look like you were sort of making a joke about
I remember
disability.
John Graham ringing us up, and we were writing together, and John and Graham rang us up and said, we're having this problem with this sketch, the Ministry of Silly Walks. Would you like to write it?
Really?
Yes. And so we wrote the Ministry of Silly Walks.
I know you did.
I think you knew that you were going to do such a grotesque walk that everybody would laugh at it and nobody would listen to the script.
It's extraordinary how we remember things differently. I always assumed that you two had written that sketch, and I remember practicing the movements in the corridor of my little flat, which, believe it or not, was in Basil Street, extraordinary fact. And I remember, figuring out the movements. And I also remember, vis-a-vis what Mike just said, that the week after it went out and everyone thought it was so funny, I was walking along Oxford Street and I bumped into a guy called Con Mahoney, who was the head of BBC Radio Light Entertainment. And he talked about the sketch, and was I not worried that we were making fun of people with physical disabilities? Seriously. And I suddenly thought, this is so weird to have this objection. But Mike's saying that people would be more concerned about it now.
I think that's the problem. It's so easy to cause offence now. At least it's a bit more difficult when we were doing
But the thing is, you can get away with what's going on in Syria. We can't stop that. We can stop people using certain words. Like I read when I got back recently, I read a piece in The Spectator, and he was talking about the fact that someone had got into trouble by talking about a transsexual, because transsexual persons like to be called transsexual persons and not being called transsexuals. Do you see what I mean? So there's an extraordinary sensitivity to a single word or phrase. Meanwhile, the most appalling things are going on in all the rest of the world that nobody can stop.
Yes, well, they can't.
It's like, well, at least we can stop people saying the N-word. That's something. That's what we do about Syria is rather indefinite at the moment. We're hoping for developments.
Would comedy help in that situation? Sorry.
But I mean, I was
comedy's
always
rather
pleased with what we
useful.
did in Life of Brian when Brian says, you know, I'm not a Roman, I'm a Jew, kike, sheeny, reds. We used every word you could use, and I'm proud of it. I thought that was really great, and that's the problem with what goes on now with language is people are so uncertain of which words cause offence and which don't. So people tiptoe around language all the time.
Am I right in thinking that the word homosexual is now just thought of as being vaguely unpleasant?
It's rather serious.
I think,
scientific, isn't it, really?
I think just the act, John. I think the word itself is perfectly innocuous.
You should be on television. Oh, he is on television. He is on television.
Satirizing the modern world is really complex, I think, because it's so diffused. It's so unfocused. Everything, you know, where there's a class system, there's no class system in the way there was before where you could actually aim very clearly at things. It's so undefined, and that's what I think is interesting. A year ago, I was talking to Stoppard. We were talking about, is there a way of doing another Brazil? Because Brazil is the now, even though it was done in '84. And it's like, and he said, I don't know how to get to grips with it. You know, what is it you actually start dealing with? And I think that's one of the big problems. It was easier when the class system was clear, when everything was in its place. Then you can pull it apart. That's why I've always thought you know, a medieval film like in Brian is very good. You've got a king, you've got a knight, you know these archetypes,
that's
stereotypes,
good.
and you can then deal with them. Now it's really hard, and it's...
But don't you think that's to do with us being younger? I mean, when you're young, you do write sketches. You have a very simple black and white view that things, whereas when you get older, everything becomes grayer. So you can't really, you're being nice about other people and their viewpoints. Whereas when you're young, you really, you really know good people and bad people. You're on the side of good things and anti-bad things. And as you get older, it all becomes a bit more messed up. You know, you like people.
The question is, what do you make fun of? Because when we grew up in, let's say, in the 50s, all right, we were at school, right? And it seemed at that time that we lived in a relatively stable society, but a lot of it was obviously stupid. And it was great fun making fun of the stupid bits, because you thought, well, eventually people will see how stupid they are and they'll sort things out. Now we have a very fractured society. I don't think anyone understands what's going on. I had dinner with somebody who was in the world of marketing a few months ago, and I said, explain it to me. And he said, you know, the present developments, they make no sense. There's no logic to them. It's very hard for anyone to understand what's going on. And, you know, comedy's about knocking things down because they're ridiculous and need to be improved. What do you start with now? I mean, we know that the BBC is a mess. We know the National Health Service is a mess, but politicians have never been held in such low regard. I mean...
Yeah, the invasion of Iraq was a con.
I mean, what about Family Guy? Do you ever watch Family Guy or South Park at all these days?
No.
Because Family Guy is funny. Family Guy does some very funny stuff, and as indeed South Park.
But I think what you were saying earlier is it's very hard to get any kind of grip on it, because it all seems to be falling apart and nobody seems to have any solution. So what can you make fun of?
I mean, they sort of just deal with very small things, you know, relationships, all that. They don't deal with the kind of things...
I think you can do daily life and the way people act together, the way people are just in ordinary everyday life. That's still good ground for comedy.
It's not really what Python did, though.
No, we never did anything that approached sitcom or anything about domestic life at all, did we? It was always on the level of absurdity if we went into it, you know. I think that's one of the great appeals of Python. It's ideas-led. You know, if you're doing a sitcom, then it has to be Atul or the Hun coming home and saying, "Oh, honey, I'm home." You know, it's always had a very bright, you know, encyclopedic sense of ideas coming from it. I think people felt a little bit more intelligent when they watched it, even though it was completely banal at times.
Yes, absolutely. And
Somebody said 20 years ago, and I felt it was true, that the world seemed to be getting madder and madder, and trying to exaggerate the madness or make fun of it now. The world was ahead of us. And I read something in the papers about 2 weeks ago, and it was a guy in England who was a burglar who'd been imprisoned. And he went to the European Court of Human Rights to say that this imprisonment was depriving him of his human right to have a family life. And he got out. I mean...
There's
What was the
a
imprisonment?
woman PC that's just suing this garage owner because she was called to the site of this robbery, and it was at night, and she tripped over the curb, and she's now suing the victim for not lighting that curb properly. Now, what's interesting is her head constable is saying, we're not actually agreeing with this woman, but the organization above that looks after police people all over the country, they're backing her. I mean, unbelievable. So you've got a world where
They're Python
the
sketchy.
victim is actually... Victimization is what the modern world is about. And if you can be a victim, you've got a halfway decent chance. I think. Yeah. Works in marriages as well. I think if we can show that John is a victim of a predatory woman who is destroyed,
He's a serial victim.
Yeah. Exactly. We could take a lot of a class action against how many?
He's a marital recidivist.
Very good. Very good. What I hear from all the young comedians now is that there's an executive class that has never written, performed, or directed comedy that thinks that by some mystical process they know what is funny and what is not funny. They've never done it. Never done it in their lives. There's somebody who'd never flown a plane started telling pilots how to fly planes. People would think it's insane. Yes. Whereas in the old days, the good people who'd come, they'd come through floor managers, the directors. They'd worked on comedy for years and had kind of absorbed this strange thing that we do to make people laugh. And it infuriates me now to hear young people saying that they don't want to go to the BBC in particular because they're going to want not just the pilot script, they're going to want detailed outlines of all the other episodes. And I just want to say to them, when Michael Mills trusted us to produce something because he thought we had talent, we were able to do that. Sometimes you won't. But there's no fail-safe program. There's no way you can be absolutely sure you're going to produce something. No, you have to take the risk that it's not going to be very good, but you have to take that risk.
But he was good. I mean, there were a lot of other people at the BBC in executive positions, as we said earlier, who didn't like it. Thought, why are we doing this?
There was a kind of a
BBC doesn't
confidence,
have that
wasn't there,
sort
that
of...
they knew things would flop, but there was a confidence that they were worth trying.
But the executive class didn't exist as it does now. That's simply what's happened. Everywhere, not just the BBC, but everywhere, television, cinema, everything, it's all risen up. So you have this layer of people that sit on the top that are the gatekeepers, that are ones that decide what the public will or will not like. And as you say, none of them have any particular talent or skill.
El, why is it that so much good stuff is coming out of America now in the comedy line?
Why is that?
Yeah?
Did you say?
Do you agree with the statement?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great comedy here. I think television's in a very good state here. I don't see a lot of it coming in the movies. I think television things are funnier by and large. But I think there's so much of it. I think there's plenty of room for people now to get in on a low level and get good. I don't find network television very funny. But I would say this. I would say that I don't think any network could still put on Python after all these years.
Yeah.
And we'd have to do it in Salford.
We're still cable, we're still cable.
But that's what happened in America was cable TV came in, HBO and all, and suddenly there were subscribers and the money was in a pot. And that's when things started happening. The Simpsons, South Park, all of it came out of basically a new system that suddenly appeared. The networks couldn't do it. And their HBO, Showtime are still doing the best work.
Yes.
Because there's real freedom within that. It's much freer. Television is much freer than the Hollywood studio system now. I mean, to get films through is really difficult. But more and more people are going on to HBO.
My ex-son-in-law, Ed Sullivan, who wrote Men in Black, he said that writers are much more respected in American television than if they're working in television than if they're working in film. And that's why they've gravitated to television. And now a lot of ex-writers are producers, and they are working with writers and guiding them, not perhaps writing themselves anymore. And that's why the programs are so much better. But it seems to me that breaking the television up in this country into all these very small audiences has done nothing for the quality of it. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe right. I sort of agree. I don't watch a lot of comedy anymore. But I think that Python was, I mean, at the time we didn't think it was a groundbreaker. We didn't even know it was going to last another year. Shows weren't repeated much. And that was it. Then we go on to the next thing. But it just was. And I look back at it now, we were dealing with things and sort of churning out material that people wouldn't be able to do nowadays with the kind of exuberance that lasted for 2.5 series.
It was 6 people making the decision. It was within us. There was nobody else. There was no outside influence. Did it make us laugh? Boom, it went in. And, sometimes we were right and sometimes we were wrong. I mean, that's what always intrigued me, some of the stuff that we thought was really funny. In the end, we look back at it, it was not.
And I think the great thing in those days was there were always a lot of people who didn't know what they were doing. Yeah. But there was an extraordinary number of people at BBC at that time who did know what they were doing, and they did not want to be stars. Mm-hmm. It's all changed now. It's all so individualistic. Do you remember? I mean, people in the old days, it was quite something to get a byline in a newspaper. Now you have a photograph of the journalist. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. And what you have now is executives who want to be thought of as famous executives. This was unheard of. Michael Mills is completely forgotten, except when we thank him for making Python possible. But they want to be stars now, and that's why they want to control everything, so it has their name on it, rather than the name of the talent. How did we do with the BAFTA awards? I mean, the strange thing about Python was that from the very beginning, a lot of the most important people just didn't like it. Remember Tom Sloan accosted Ian McNaughton in the lift and saying, well, what the hell are you doing? Yeah. And then the independent newspaper, under this freedom of information, got some minutes out about 4 years ago, and all the heads of department, I think there were about 8 heads of department, and 6 of them condemned Python, and these were not cosmonauts or matadors or plumbers. These were people whose job it was to understand what was good television, and 6 out of 8 of them couldn't see that they had something under their noses that was actually rather interesting. And I think that's
But thank God they put it on, I mean,
oh well, that's Michael Mills, isn't it?
But then when it came to film, I remember Alexander Walker, who was the leading critic at that point. He did a book on British films of the 60s, 70s. And Python was a footnote. That's all it was. Yeah. Where you went, I remember going to Brussels, and all they talked about was Python films. And
but
yet
Terry,
it didn't exist.
Terry, we had lampooned the piss out of him in one of the episodes. If you remember,
there was that.
Alexander Walker, and he had his hair, which is funny. Yeah. And as I talked, his hair got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So
normally he would like that. Any attention, Alexander would love. But it was interesting if you actually read books on cinema of the 70s. We're not, or 80s, whenever it was we don't really exist there. We're such
a minor... It's very strange. It was as though the British film industry thought of us as a kind of a separate unit that didn't really count as a British film. My recollection, and I ought to check this, is that Life of Brian got 1 nomination, and that was for costume design.
What, for BAFTA?
Yeah.
Sheets.
Did Python ever get an Academy Award for anything?
No.
No Emmys?
No Emmys.
No Grammys?
No. Not that we're bitter. We're happy.
But it was puzzling, actually. I think that's the main thing. I don't feel angry about it. I'm just kind of puzzled.
I remember being frustrated that the summary of the when we made the Holy Grail and the Life of Brian, the summary of that year film didn't include, in the papers, it didn't include anything, any mention of the.
Well, we were supposed to be
right by being
that been our attitude, because I mean we were very dismissive of awards. You remember we did actually do a send-up, didn't we, of BAFTA?
Oh, yes,
you did Dickie Attenborough, didn't you?
Yes. We did Dickie Attenborough. We brought on David Niven's fridge.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
To accept the award.
Couldn't be here himself.
David couldn't be here tonight, so he sent his fridge. And this is the fridge in which David keeps all his cheese, his vegetables. It was his second best fridge, or was it anything? Yeah, we did show a certain amount of contempt for them.
Yeah.
Which is,
I think it's fair.
was returned in, in Spain.
It's funny because, you know, sometimes people were a little bit upset, even when it was quite affectionate. For example, every time that I ever met Alan Wicker, he always talked about Wicker Island, which was actually quite an affectionate parody. But it was as though it somehow got under his skin. And but people...
So he got under his skin?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's an affectionate parody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People are very... We did another film critic we made fun of.
Oh, Gavin Millar?
Yes.
Gavin
Well
Millar.
done, Noel.
Yeah.
No, you made fun of him.
Yes, Agri Gray and I wrote that. I think the fact was that we were so obviously not kowtowing to anyone, not obviously wanting to belong to any particular group, and that without quite realizing it, we got the natural response to that, which is that we're not bothering about you. But I'm not saying it's really at a conscious level.
You'd think that film critics are rather pleased to have been in Python. I mean, they're usually ignored.
I remember once, I mean, this is absolutely true, when we did Fish Called Wanda, and I was in LA, and they wanted a link so that I would appear in the BAFTA Awards, and I wasn't particularly keen because none of us had ever been that crazy about awards. And I remember they said, "Well, you have won something," and I thought, "Oh, really? Well, that's nice. I suppose then I got to appear." And I assumed that I'd won the writing prize.
Yeah.
And when they announced the writing prize and said somebody else's name, my face went, what? Because I realized that I'd won Best Actor. And to get Best Actor for that role of Archie is ridiculous. I mean, it's a good comedy performance, but it's hardly up there with Gandhi.
Were you up against Gandhi?
No, we weren't up against. But I remember that the film that got the best script, nobody's ever heard of it again. It's never been mentioned since that evening.
Why are fish funny? Very good question, because they are.
Are they?
Well, they are, aren't they? We've done a lot of fish stuff. The fish license. I've licensed my pet fish, Eric. How do you know my name is Eric?
That's right, very good. I think animals were always a theme with us. There's something funny about animals and there's something funny about eating. And an awful lot of our sketches had something to do with one or the other of those. Do you agree?
No.
No, okay. That's
Next.
just a quick thought.
I mean, fish slapping dance would not be any better with cats, would it, really? I think we got the thing right there. Would it? With a big cat?
The cat was in Holy Grail with the old woman.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beating the cat on the wall. Yeah. Sort of thrown away, that was.
I don't even remember it.
Oh.
Extraordinary.
That's when Arthur and Bedivere arrive and
She's beating the cat
Yeah,
on the wall.
yeah. Okay.
It's very funny.
Come on, Al. Sorry, we got chatting then. What have you got to say?
No, what? What?
Amuse us. You're a very funny man, and we love you.
No, look, I may be 30, man. It's 4 a.m. You know, I don't normally play this late. This is the latest gig I've done. Professor Brian Cox, I had a dinner with him, a couple of dinners with him, and when I dined with him about a month later, I said, "So has the universe expanded enormously since our last dinner?" And he said, "Actually, the surprising thing is it's quite small because it's so big. The expansion is maybe fast, but the percentage of which it has expanded during a very small period of time is very, very small." There you are.
So it has expanded, but...
It is expanding all the time, even during this short programme. It's just expanded.
You just can't notice it, can you? I mean, Sloane Square out there.
It's
much the same size.
Sloane Square is technically a little bit further away.
That's a nice thought. I like that.
Oh, we're going away.
I'm against
Terrific. I think it's a great idea.
I'm in favour of it for others, but I'm against it personally.
What was Woody Allen said? It was not that he was frightened of it, but he didn't want to be there when it happened.
What I'm frightened of is an afterlife. I don't want any of that.
I think all those Muslim virgins that are all over you, you don't want that.
I wonder if as you get older, I mean, I kind of feel as I get older, I get more sort of childlike in a way.
That's called senility, Mike.
I can relate to my grandsons very well, because it's a bit like Python, you know, you can do any silly things with them and all that. And whether we get sillier as we get older, which is some hope. Do you think so?
Yeah. I think there
never
is.
was that serious. But
I've read a
think I'm
bit
less
about
serious.
this stuff, and I think there is something going on. But you know, after we die, I actually think there may be something going on, because there's a lot of interesting books out there written by not loonies or mediums, who may be very strange people, but written by academics, particularly in America. And if you look at some of those stories, I mean, I'm most fascinated by these things, these out-of-body experiences, where people claim to have left their bodies. I mean, there was one that was tested in a psychological laboratory by a guy called Charles Tart, who was a very well-known professor of psychology, and he discovered that the person working for him as a sort of au pair said that she often left her body. So he checked it. And on 6 occasions, she just lay in the bed in the laboratory, and they placed a 5-digit number on the ledge above her bed, which couldn't be seen except from above. And on 5 occasions, she did not leave her body. And on the 6th occasion, she did. And she was able to report the correct number, because she'd gone up, looked it, remembered it, and then was able to report a 5-digit number. Now, you can say it was a coincidence, but you kind of think, well, if this is possible, there are these veridical experiences by people who've had OBEs. In other words, they've seen things that they could not possibly know and report them accurately afterwards and can be checked. If that is going on, if our consciousness could be separate from our body, in other words, if our consciousness is like a television receiver, the programs are not made in the television set, they're made somewhere else, but we have to watch the television set to see them. If there was a kind of consciousness like that, and the reductionists, materialist reductionist people who simply find all the research and all the anecdotal information so absurd that they won't even look at it, and they sweep it under the carpet, which is what happens to every scientific theory, because people become so attached emotionally to the theory that they don't want to think that it couldn't be right.
Yeah. I mean, it's always, I mean, all your shamans have always believed in out-of-body experiences, but that's why you're alive. That's why the afterlife, I would rather not even think about it. I'm not counting on it. I'd like to be surprised. But the idea of, when you start talking about the afterlife, it's about how do you get the afterlife? How do you get where it should be? That you can control it. My attitude is, don't even count on it. And if there happens to be something, hunky-dory. But it's
but at least be interested in it, because what you get from the Dawkinses and the Dennetts and the Christopher Hitchens is an attack on the very worst type of religion that no one is ever going to try and really defend anyway. You know, I mean, there's an enormous amount about organised religion. This is absolute nonsense. But underneath it all, I think there is something going on. It's just that the organised churches...
religion was really Enlightenment started the whole thing, that religion has to be reasonable, has to be scientific. You have to explain it. In the 19th century, all the biblical scholars in America were, you know, it's historically true, the Bible. Religion is about myth. Myth is not logos. It's not real. It's not the reason, but it is a form. And I think that's why it's the problem, that people start confusing myth with, you know, the solid reality around us.
I mean, I learned last night, one book I was reading, that the crucifixion is not mentioned in Christian documents until 40 years after Christ's death, which is somewhere...
Duh.
You know, and you want to think, well, you would have thought someone
might have mentioned
it.
Yeah, no, that's the whole thing. And that's been the problem, when you know.
Except it was commonplace.
No, but I think myth is wonderful, because it gives form to things, and gives shape, and gives explains things a different way that words and reason can't. But it doesn't mean it really happens.
No.
And I think the whole point is, what is it? Meaning of life. It's trying to give meaning to life, not that there is any meaning to life.
I just think we should have an attitude of curiosity towards it, instead of sort of condemning it as Richard Dawkins. I know Richard a little bit. I like him very much indeed. But he kind of condemns. He's so aggressive about anyone who thinks anything goes on. But be interested.
I think if you're comedians or whatever, you enjoy humour and comic, you've got to... Everything's up for grabs.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what you've got to be. Certainty is our enemy.
Yeah, that's right.
That was very good, Mike. And
I'm dying.
finally, yes.
My last words, yeah.
Yeah.
What are you going to have on your gravestone then, John?
Calls referred to.
I was going just for gone to lunch, back soon.
The thing is, how
Mine says say no more.
Say no more. Yeah.
And hopefully, when we're all dead, we'll be doing commercials because they'll be using us and chopping us up to sell vacuum cleaners. I think.
And on that note,
On that note, yes, go and get married.
Please send your contributions to this address.
Yeah.
It'll appear on your screen now. Help the old unmarried and married pythons.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elle. It's been to look.
well done, El. Sleep well.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you very much. No, it's great to see you all. I miss you. I mean, we should do this, sometime when we can get together without the cameras. And a great deal more of wine.
That would seem very strange without the cameras.
Talking about death,
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Go to
Thank you, John.
are we still wired up here? I don't know. Where's this thing?
Get out.
So what is this for, John?
Very good. Posterity.
Austerity?
Oh, yeah.